Alright, we are looking at relative frequencies of the rhinoceros population. The International Rhino Federation estimates that there are 17,800 rhinoceroses living in Africa and Asia, and they want us to construct a relative frequency table for the data. Well, before we construct a relative frequency table, we ought to know what the relative frequency is for each rhinoceros. And this is just kind of a fancy way of talking about proportion. So again, we're going to take the part over the whole for proportion, which means 3,610 divided by our total number here, 17,800. And we get a relative frequency of about 0.203. If I continue finding my relative frequencies, again dividing by 17,800 each time, I find that for African white I have a 0.637. For the Asian Sumatran it's 0.017. The Asian Javan I have 0.003, and the Asian Indian is 0.140. Again, this is rounding to 3 decimal places, and rounding is usually set by your professor, maybe the textbook, or personal preference, and I guess I prefer about 3 decimal places. Now I need to construct a relative frequency table, and I'm going to start by creating kind of an XY axis or some sort of measurements on each side. Okay, I have created my table, and you can notice on the what would be considered your y-axis, I have my relative frequencies 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7. I chose this scale because if I look at my relative frequencies, again you always have to start at 0, but I have as high as 0.637, so I knew I need to at least get to a 0.6. And then I labeled my species along what would be considered your x-axis: African black, African white, Asian Sumatran, Asian Javan, and Asian Indian. Now I simply need to construct bars that rise to how high I have a frequency. So for African black, my frequency is 0.203, so I'm going to go to 0.2 and maybe just a touch above that. There's my African black relative frequency. African white, 0.637, I'm going to go way up, and about 0.63 might be just a little bit above 0.6. So somewhere around there. Asian Sumatran, 0.017, so very small, 0.01, not 0.1. So very, very teeny. Asian Javan, even teenier, 0.003. That almost might just be a line right there. And Asian Indian gets up to 0.14, so 0.14 would be about halfway up, somewhere around there. Now, because my scale on my drawing might not be exactly accurate, I could go ahead and write the relative frequency above each of these, especially because 0.017 and 0.003 are so teeny. And that's how you construct a relative frequency table.